What's up guys, and welcome to another tournament vlog here. I'm back in Toledo. We're gonna play a $340 bounty tournament today. I'm a little bit late. The tournament started at noon and I'm like 30 minutes late, so it's gonna be 20-minute levels, so we missed the first two levels I think, but it's fine. We're gonna get in there now and then see you at the tables. We sit down at our tables with 50k in chips, and I'm going to play my very first hand and call an undergun open with 7-8 of diamonds, and it looks like we're going multi-way to a flop as button and small blind call as well. Then the big blind makes it 2k to go. Under the gun surprisingly folds, but I'm definitely here to play and call, and so does the button and the small blind. We go 4 ways to a flop with a very playful hand of jack, 7 deuce with 2 hearts, 1 spade. On this board, the big blind decides to continue small with a bet of 2.5k. I'm going to call you with second pair, and so does the button, and we go to a magical turn which gives us 2 pair with the 8 of spades. Under the gun decides to check now, and I can get a lot of value from flush draws, top pairs or also combo draws, so I decide to bet 8500. It looks like the button has an easy decision as he calls, and the undergun surprisingly calls as well, so a big card coming already in the first hand, and on the river it's definitely a good one with another 7, and we make a full house in our first hand. Under the gun checks now, and the question now is how much do I want to bet here? I still want to get paid by a jack, so I decide to size up and make it 25k. The button player is in the tank now, and he really doesn't like the bet, and also that there is another player behind him, so he decides to fold after some time, and undergun folds as well. It's a little bit unfortunate that we didn't get paid, but a very good start in the very first hand. The button later said he folded king jack for a pretty strong fold if it's 2, which I didn't expect, and undergun folded ace x of hearts, which is reasonable. In the next hand we call an undergun +1 open to 1k with king jack offsuit from the button, and we go heads up to a flop of king 5-8 2 spades. He decides to c-bet for 1200, and with top pair no spade in my hand I have an easy call here, and the turn is the 9 of spades. It's obviously not my favorite card in the deck as the flush completes, and also because he bets 4k now. Heads up with top pair here, I still cannot go anywhere just yet, so I call again. The river is the queen of hearts, and under the gun +1 decides to bet 12k now. It's a very annoying and tough spot because the player we're up against is a younger guy who definitely knows what's up here, and he's capable of bluffing with the ace of spades, for example. So I have a hard time letting go of top pair early stage, although we only have a bluff catcher basically in this spot, and we're beat by a lot of hands as well. It's early in the tournament, so I do decide to call, and +1 tables 8-9 of hearts for 2 pair, and we definitely got owned big time in that one, so I have to give kudos to my opponent here. Very nice value bet. In the next hand, Ola Gentleman decides to limp in from MP for 400, and I make it 1500 to go from the cutoff with king 10 of diamonds, and he decides to call. We go heads up to a flop of 8 queen 3 1 diamond 2 clubs, and he checks, and I'm gonna c-bet small for 1k. As you can see in the video, without thinking too much he quickly calls, and the turn is the ace of clubs. It sucks a little bit that we don't have a club in our hand, but it is a perfect card to continue bluffing because I want to put an 8 in a horrible spot, because that's what people usually lip in with just mediocre hands. To see a cheap flop or even a queen doesn't like the second barrel. He also checks his whole cards again, and I was ruling out him having a flush here, so I bet 3.5k and he snap folds. In the next hand, undergun opens huge to 2.5k at 300-600 blind level, so I decide to just call from the low jack with jacks, and the big blind calls as well, and we go to a flop of jack 10-6 rainbow. Now I wished I would have 3-bet obviously, but it gets checked to me, and I bet very tiny here for 1.3k. Big blind folds, and undergun decides to stick around, and the turn is the 5 of spades. He checks to me again, and I decide to bet 3.1k, very small again, and after some thought he calls again. I'm hoping he has a strong hand here, but it doesn't look like it to be honest, but the river is the 8 of clubs. He checks to me one more time, and I'm just gonna bet big here for 15k, but after like maybe 20 seconds of thinking, he lets go of his hand, and he probably had like ace queen, ace king type of hand here, where wanted to peel twice with the gutter and 2 overs maybe. In the next hand, under the gun decides to limp in. I raise with ace 5 of spades from the hijack. Button is very short stacked and jams 8800 into the middle. So our first bounty spot is definitely a gamble, and we decide to call, but we need to hit because we're up against ace 10 offsuit. This one is a big one, guys, as under the gun +1 opens to 2.5k, bigger than the usual raise at 400, 800 blinds. I call a7 of clubs in the hijack and we go heads up to a flop of 3-5 king with 2 clubs. Under the gun bets very big for 5k, showing a lot of strength already, and with the nut flush draw, we're just gonna make the call here and the turn is the queen of hearts. Now he checks and the line already looks very fishy to me. I still think he has pretty strong hands here, or could have pretty strong hands here, so I'm just gonna check back and realize the equity with the nut flush draw and 1 over. The river is the best card in the deck with the deuce of clubs and we make the nuts here. Even more music to my ears as +1 bets 10k now. I obviously fake tank a little bit now and then I make it 30k to go. Without thinking too much, he quickly makes the call with pocket queens and we win the biggest pot so far. In the next blind level, we open kings right after the break from +1 for 2.2k. Button calls and we go heads up to another flop of Jack Jack 10 rainbow. I see bet very small for 2k and the button quickly min clicks it to 4k now. My alarm bells are already going off, but obviously my hand is still very strong, so I do decide to stick around. The turn is a total brick with the 7 of clubs. I check to him and he immediately grabs chips and bets 6500. Again, my hand is way too strong to fold, so I do decide to call again and the dealer puts out the third jack on the river and it is at least less likely now that he has a jack in his hand. I check again towards him and now he bets 10k. Obviously he could have a jack here, but also just a 10 which makes a full house and we smash, so I don't think I can ever fold here and I do decide to call and he fortunately tables queen jack for quads. I open a7 of diamonds from the hijack to 2.1k and only the big blind defense and we go heads up to another flop of 5-10 ace with 2 clubs. Big blind checks and I decide to c-bet for 2k. The big blind doesn't think a lot and quickly calls the bet and the turn is the 4 of clubs. I could pot control here, but the big blind is an action player that maybe sticks around with the worst hand and the club, so my plan is to bet here and almost always check the river if we don't improve, so I decide to bet 5.1k. He quickly calls and we go to river, which is the 8 of spades, and it quickly goes check check and we win against queen 10 with no club, which is surprising to me. In the next hand I only call with pocket 8s because I accidentally put out the wrong chip. So we only call and that brings in the small blind and the big blind checks his option and we go 3s to a flop of 5-3-6 with 2 diamonds and 1 club. I decide to bet 2k and small blind and big blind, to my surprise, both call fairly quick. I still think we have the best hand here since 2 pair or better would have already raised on this very red board. The turn then is the 3 of clubs and I do decide to bet again for 6.5k. Small blind calls again and big blind folds this time and we go heads up to a river, which is another 5. And now he quickly surprisingly leads for 11k. In game I actually hate it live, but what is he trying to say here that he has? In my eyes, if he had a 3 he would have raised the turn, so he's basically saying he has a 5 or a missed draw, which would be 4x or a flush draw. In game, to be honest, I didn't even think about 4x and I only thought it's basically nuts with a 5 or a missed flush draw. I tank for quite a bit and think about this spot a lot, but I do decide he has enough bluffs here, so I stick it in and he just shows the 10 of diamonds and says you're good, so we win this nice pot as well here. With 101k in our stake now, yes, we peel the rockets. Under the gun min raises to 3k, +1 calls and I make it 10k to go. Under the gun surprisingly folds, but +1 makes the call and the flop is ace 8 10 rainbow and we do flop top set. He checks to me and I'm debating between checking back and setting the trap or betting small. I do get still value on the flop from hands like 10x, queen jack, which is a double gutter, or open ender, so I do decide to bet very small for 20% pot for 5.2k. But under the gun +1 doesn't like the board at all and quickly folds. I open queen jack offsuit in the next hand to 3.2k from under the gun +1, still at the same blind level. Cutoff decides to call and we go heads up to a flop of king 5 8 rainbow. King high boards are usually good for my range, especially if I open from under the gun +1, so I do decide to c-bet for 2.5k. And he quickly calls the bet without thinking too much. I'm hoping to see a good card on a turn that I can continue bluffing or semi-bluffing, but it is a total brick with the deuce of diamonds. That is obviously not the card I was hoping for, so I do decide to check on this brick of a turn, but he checks back and the river is the ace of clubs. I couldn't have hoped for a better river where I could bluff, because I should have a lot of ace-x hands as well when I check the turn, so you guys know what's coming. I think this card is perfect to bluff, so I bet 6k and he snap calls with 8-9 of spades. So yeah, I couldn't get him off third pair on the river, but I also don't like my bet sizing here. I actually hate it because it gives him way too good of a price for people who don't like to fold. So I should have bet pot or more than pot to at least put him into a tougher spot here. In the next hand we open beautiful looking queen deuce offsuit from the button to 4.2k. Obviously way to lose, but yeah, here we are against the same player with the 9-8 suited hand and he defends and we go to a flop of 8-9 queen with 2 clubs. Although we have no kicker, button versus big blind, we should have the best hand here. So I decide to bet 3600 since it's
is a very wet board and I can get called by many worse hands. Button indeed sticks around and calls, which I'm fine with because this is in my eyes again a spot where almost every better hand raises already besides the queen with a better kicker. The turn is a somewhat of a brick with the 6 of hearts and he checks to me again. I see no reason to not continue betting here because this opponent is very sticky, so I decide to bet 7k and now the big blind immediately thinks, and what's coming next I definitely didn't expect. He now raises to 18k, which is a little bit more than a min click, but what value hands does he really have here? Maybe he slow played a set on the flop, but even queens and nines should 3-bet, so I have a very hard time folding top pair here. The only thing I could see is him hitting 2 pair with hands like 9-6 or queen-6 suited, but after some debate I do call and we go to a river, which is the 10 of clubs. So the front door flush gets there and now he quickly checks. Although my hand is probably never good here, I debate making a huge bet, but I don't know if this is the right guy to do so. So in the end I decide to go with the passive route and check back, and we lose to 7-8 offsuit. He just called on the flop with a gutter and just hits the perfect card on the turn, so this one definitely hurts. In the next hand I peel ace-10 off in the big blind. Under the gun, cutoff, button and small blind all limp for 2k and I raise to 9k with a very playable hand. Under the gun decides to fold and cutoff just jams for 30.9k, which is a little bit more than 15 big blinds, and his bounty's in play, so let's gamble again.
Yeah, 30,000. Oh, what's it?
Seats open 24/7, 24/8.
Still at the same blind level, under the gun opens to 4.1k and I defend ace deuce offsuit out of the big blind. And we totally smash the flop of ace 4 deuce rainbow. He c-bets of course since it's an ace high board for 4.1k, and I already have a decision what I want to do here because it's already a big c-bet and it shows him a lot of strength here. Although it's a rainbow board and he can have a ton of bluffs here, I decide to raise to 15k. In theory I still don't like the play because he also misses the board so often, but it is against our nemesis of the 8-9 suited hand who doesn't like to fold, but it gets even better when he 3-bets to 32k. My thought process was he can never fold strong ace-x hands here, so I do decide to jam, but I really hate the play because it at least gives him the chance to get away with one pair hands. If I just call, he probably jams those type of hands like ace-jack on the turn, but I do decide to 4-bet jam on the flop, and after a short tank he folds. In the next hand I min raise pocket fives from MP to 5k. Cutoff calls and button now jams for 54.2k, which is around 22 bigs and a third of my stack at the moment. It was very close, especially with the $100 bounty in play, but I do decide to skip that one and probably call 7s plus, but let me know in the comments guys if you stick it in here.
Alright guys, yeah, second break of the day. We have dinner break now. I have 170k, started with 50k in chips. I made a couple of mistakes, like 2 hands. The king jack hand in the beginning where I was very stubborn, but I think, yeah, I can find a fold on a different day there. But definitely misplayed the queen deuce offsuit hand on the button. Way too loose, just fold the hand and, you know, have more chips. But besides that, yeah, very nice run so far, 170k. Gonna grab some food now and yeah, we will see what's gonna happen. It's gonna be a one-day tournament, so you will definitely see an outcome today.
In the next hand, under the gun limps in. I make it 15k to go from the small bar with ace queen offsuit, and it goes back to the under the gun player and he decides to limp jam for 82k, which is a little more than 20 bigs. The under the gun limp jam is always a little bit worrying, but it's 20 bigs and I have a good hand for getting a bounty as well, so I stick it in and yeah, he has aces, so let's go to a run out. Now under the gun opens 3x and I peel pocket 10s in the small blind with 93k in my stack. There's only one move in my eyes, so I jam, and this time we're at risk as he calls jack 10 suited for the bounty, and yeah, let's go for a run out. After we faded the world on the last round out, I couldn't even film quick enough as we get into the mix again. I only have a screenshot, but I will break down the action for you guys. We're at 3k, 5k now and cutoff raises to 12k. Button decides to jam for 62k, which is only 12 bigs, and I look down at pocket 7s in the small blind. I decide to play it aggressively and cold 4-bet jam for 180k, and the cutoff, thank God, folds. We're up against queens, but I will show you guys the run out here on the screenshot. Flop is queen 5-3, so we're basically dead. Then the turn is a 6, so we hit a gutter. And the river, I couldn't believe it. It is a magical 4 and we get another bounty. Let's go, guys. I'm in risk queens now from under the gun +1, and now the guy who limp jam aces jams again for 77k. I obviously snap call with queens and we go to a run out against ace king.
Oh my god.
After winning that flip as well and another bounty, we're definitely sun running in this tournament. In this hand, under the gun decides to limp in. I raise to 17k from under the gun +1 and the limper makes the call, so we go heads up to a floor of king 10-6 rainbow. He checks to me out of position, I bet 12k and under the gun very quickly makes the call. The turn is the deuce of hearts, and I think sometimes you can also check back a strong hand like that on the turn, because it's tough sometimes to get 3 streets of value on such a dry board. So I do check back and the river has a 7 of spades. I bet a little bigger now, this time for 45k, and he snap calls. I show my hand and we win. He probably had a king as well, so this was maybe the spot to get 3 streets of value, but I'm also fine with the outcome here. We have 35k again since I 3-bet a7 off in position and got min raised on the flop, so I was forced to fold basically. In this hand, undergun limps in again for 10k. I raise to 34k from NP, and again it gets back all the way to undergun, and if I say this, you guys know what's coming next. He also limp jams for 162k, but I haven't learned anything, so I call again for a bounty, and this time we're up against king queen, so it's a flip.
Thank you.
We're on the bubble now and I'm in the big blind with ace-6 of hearts. Button and small blind both limp in, and I think it's fine to either raise or check here, but I prefer raise since it's actually better to be aggressive on the bubble with a bigger stack, but I do decide to check my option here. We go 3 ways to a flop of 8, 4, deuce, all diamonds. It gets checked to the button and he bets 1 big blind for 15k now. Small blind folds, and with top pair I make the call as well here. I could definitely think about raising here since my hand needs a lot of protection. They're basically only bad turns for me, but yeah, I just call. The turn is the 5 of hearts, which is probably one of the better turns for my specific hand. I check again and now he bets 20k. It's very small, so I cannot go anywhere. I call, but again I could think about raising here. The river is the 6 of diamonds, so we're definitely done with the hand now, but it goes check check and the button shows 9, 5 of diamonds, so the river definitely saved us. We're officially in the money now with 13 big blinds, but there are a lot of shorter stacks in the field since it's a turbo tournament. In this hand, MP opens to 65k. I peel pocket 7s in the cutoff and decided to min click it here to 130k. It folds back to him and he 4-bet jams for 350k. We slightly cover him, so this is a perfect spot for me basically. We call and his $100 bounty obviously is also in play, and he surprisingly shows pocket 4s and we're in amazing shape. After picking up another bounty, we're immediately in the mix again. Button jams 77k, which is a little more than 2 big blinds, and I'm in the big blind with jack deuce suited, so obviously I have to call any 2 here, so we need to hit against ace 10 suited. After that hand, we get another jam through where the button opens and I jam ace-9 offsuit out of the small blind and get a fold, and then it's time. 3 tables left here in this tournament. Our name gets called to play on stream for the first time ever in my life. We immediately get into the mix after a couple of seconds. Under the gun +2 opens 4x and I peel pocket 8s in the small blind with 9 big blinds. I really was in pain because the open size was so big, and this is always pretty strong to me, especially deep in a tournament. To me it was either ace king or ace queen or a bigger pair, so I thought I'm flipping at best. I also made a very big mistake and I didn't see that he had about the same stack as me, as I thought he had way more chips, and obviously if I would have checked better in this situation, this is a slam dunk jam. In the end I make a very nitty fold, which looking back at it with this in my stack, it's a pretty huge mistake. After that we're on break and I still think about that one spot with pocket 8s, but here's a look at the payouts, guys. After the break we go card that for a little bit, but then finally get a hand in the hijack with a little bit more than 4 big blinds. This is a clear jam, and now I'm just gonna let the clip run for you guys with commentary.
I think you gotta risk it for the biscuit now.
Yep, 4 big blinds. Gonna push all in. Lisa. Let's go with the ace.
Oh gosh. Can I get a count, please?
Oh, tough spot for David. The 2 lowest stacks. And David also has the big blind and Annie in Vic, so he's already invested.
All in to call here with a suited ace. He does make the call. And Henning in a slight lead with those pocket eights, looking to avoid hearts, looking to avoid an ace. And David looking for some help so that his Black Friday tournament run continues.
Oh,
And an ace right in the
wow.
window. And that'll be it for Henning.
No, I think he might have 10,000 left.
Oh, okay. I think you're right. I think you're right.
Yeah, man.
Nope.
All of it?
That's all of it. And another black chip going David's way here.
GG's, we're getting closer. Hello.
What's your name? $500 in bounties, and there's your box for your dealers.
Alright guys, we finished 23rd here in Toledo. Yeah, nice run. I think I'm fine with how I played today. On the feature table there was one hand where he opens 4x under the gun or under the gun +1. And I only have 10 bigs with pocket eights, but I have to be honest, I was a little bit scared. Because it's either ace king or I'm behind. So I decided to not take the spot, but yeah, we got it in good in the end. I only had 5 bigs, nothing I can do. And in those spots you just have to hold if you want to win a tournament, but we will get there in the future. And yeah, I just want to thank you guys for watching. If you liked it, leave a like, and we see each other in the next one.